and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest, leader in the self-love movement, certified life spiritual and relationship coach, retreat leader, speaker, and of course the author of the book The Silent Bully: A Journey from Abusive Brain Chatter to Self-Love, no other than Miss Jacquie Elliott.
Well, hello.
Welcome, Miss Jackie on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, I am, as you said, a certified life, relationship, um, and spiritual coach. And I have been for about 5 years. And I've been writing this book for about 4 years. And I'm just happy to release it to the public. It's about abuse, the bully in our head, the voice that tells us we're not good enough and that holds us back from getting the career we want, the relationship we want, the life that we want. And in the book, I walk you step by step through how to change that. I have worksheets and stories, my own personal stories and stories from my clients that help you really understand what is going on and why you're holding yourself back and how to release that bully and let that bully go.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Jackie. The title Silent Bully is such a powerful and relatable metaphor for our inner critic. Can you describe the moment of the realization when you first name this experience and why this specific term resonates so deeply?
Well, the term came later, but it wasn't until I was 42 years old, and I realized that my life was just a wreck. I was working more than I should for the pay I was receiving. I was isolating at home. I was binge eating. I was watching TV, binge TV. I was a single mother, and I just couldn't seem to get out of this cycle of shame and just I just thought so little of myself. And it was this one day in the summer that I just said, "No, I can't go on like this. I either have to change or I can't go on." It was really kind of an aha moment, I call it. And that's when I realized that I didn't have the power to really change my thinking. And I had to reach out to another power. And it was my spiritual awakening. I'm hearing an echo in my.
I will fix that.
Oh, thank you.
In sharing your journey from abusive brain chatter to self love, you're making yourself vulnerable. What was the hardest part of your own story to put on the page, and what gave you the courage to do it?
Oh, wow. No one's asked me that. This book taught me so very much. I had, in it, I'm very open and honest. I had a lot of trauma in my life. My mother was suicidal, and I was sexually abused, and I had severe asthma. So I was sick all the time. So that was just, that's what I lived with. And it was writing it down and just watching my progress has been amazing. That the biggest growth I got was that, wow, you survived all of it. Not only did you survive all of that, but you thrive now and you teach others how to do that. And I really appreciate that I'm the real deal. It's like, no, I didn't just write this book and I'm not walking my walk. I really walked the walk and I really share with my readers how I did that. And sometimes it was just these baby steps I had to take, and sometimes it was going to therapy, and sometimes it was really being honest with myself and having to change behavior, learning meditation, learning how to journal, learning new ways of thinking, affirmations, how to think about myself, learning to say nicer things to myself because we create this neuroplasticity in our brain creates these thought patterns, and when we continue to support that negative talk in our brain, our brain starts believing it, so it becomes the truth. I really am worthless, I really am not good enough, I really can't do this. But then when I was able to change that message to, you know how can it's not that I can't, but how can I don't have to be perfect. I am a work in progress, and I say gentle things to myself, and I say, "I'm okay. I have a right to be here. I'm a nice person." All of the things that I was saying that are the opposite of what I used to say to myself when I was abusing myself. Pretty soon now, it just is second nature to me. It's second nature to catch it right away. I mean, we don't get rid of our abusive brain chatter completely. I mean, it still comes up where you might have a thing about, oh, I didn't do that very well, or, maybe I didn't say that well on the podcast, or maybe I made a fool of myself. But what I do now is I don't believe it. And I am so much more gentle. And I say to myself, you know, that's okay. That's okay. You did the best you could. And now it's time to move on and do something else or something more. And 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I never could have written a book. Just it never would have been able to happen because I would have sabotaged myself and worried about what other people thought and thought that I was a fraud. But with this method that I created, which is the ABC method, aware, believe, and challenge, I bring that to my daily life. So whenever abusive brain chatter comes up, it's like, nope, there it is. That's abusive brain chatter. Okay, what I need to believe something better about myself. I need to believe in my spirit, my spiritual life, and see, I need to challenge what I'm saying to myself. Is that really true? Really? Am I an imposter? Well, no, of course not. This is my life, my book, and my career. So, as I do that, it just becomes the natural thought process for me.
Well, Miss Jackie, the book is framed as a journey, suggesting a process, not a quick fix. Can you describe a specific low point on the journey, the rock bottom moment with your own silent bully that's become the catalyst for change?
Well, as I was saying, it was a day in June, and I was laying in my bed, and I was watching TV because I binged watched TV, and I was binge eating because I was a food addict, and I was puffing on an asthma inhaler because I couldn't breathe. Um, and it was like at that moment, my abusive brain chatter was saying, "You're a terrible mother. You're never going to get to meet anyone. You're never going to get out of this. Just forget about it. Just face the fact that you're a loser." And all of these horrible things to me. And suddenly I heard it for what it was. You know what I mean? It was like suddenly I went, wait a minute, that doesn't have to be true. Wait a minute, that hurts. Ouch. This is emotional abuse. I'm emotionally abusing myself. Bullies who abuse people and who emotionally abuse partners, they criticize, they bully, they belittle, they isolate, they gaslight. All of those things. Suddenly it dawned on me, wow, I left an abusive relationship, but I brought my own emotional abuser with me. I don't need anybody to tell me I'm bad. I'm doing it myself. And so, like I said, that was the moment I just really, I literally fell to my knees and said, I can't fix this using my own brain. My own brain is going to take me down this dark alley. I need something else. I need some help. And I sought help, and that was really the lowest point in my life, but became the best point in my life.
The best for sure. Your subtitle called this as a personal transformation self-help book. How is the DNA of your own transformation woven in the methods and exercise you prescribe for the reader?
Well, I became a life coach. So a lot of what I put in the book is what I've helped other clients do, along with my own personal journey. I'm very candid. I share my own journey of abuse and uh, depression and my mother's suicide attempts and sexual abuse. I share my own stories and show the readers how I changed my thinking about those. Because, when we have trauma, that's what I'm asked a lot about. Well, trauma, what about trauma? You can't really, sometimes you just can't get over trauma. And I say, trauma is your past. What I help you do in the book is stay in the present and create your future. And those are some of the tools that in the book I have like maybe 20 or 25 worksheets. So as you're going through it, I'm having you do the work. So the work is, what is your abusive brain chatter saying to you? What are the voices in your head telling you? And then we go break it down like, well, who told you that? Where did you hear that? Is that true? What's something else that you can say to yourself that might help you change that? How do you set small goals? Because I think a lot of people who have abusive brain chatter don't even try because they feel like they'll fail. So they don't even set these small goals. But if you set a really, really small goal, if you say you want to say for instance you're not dating and you want to get a relationship, I would say the first thing to do is you have to um, write down a list of what you want in a person. Write down a list of who you are, what are your qualities and values, and what are the qualities and values of someone you want. And that's all you have to do. Nothing else, nothing big and major. Just take that little small step. Get to know yourself and get to know what you want in your life. And then the next step might be write down where that person might be. The person who has those values. Would it be a person who goes to church? Would it person who goes to on hikes? Would it be a person who travels? Join a travel club? And so I break down things into really bitty steps that, one of the things they've shown is that when you set goals and you achieve your goal, you get a hit of endorphins. Your brain gets a little dopamine hit. So a lot of times people with abusive brain chatter set these unrealistic goals and then they go, oh, there it is again. I didn't finish it again. I said I was going to write a book. Of course, I didn't even get through a first chapter. It's kind of the way I feel about um, uh, in New Year's Eve when you set resolutions. I kind of feel that resolutions set you up for a lot of shame because the studies have shown us that the majority of people, their resolutions are over by the 15th of January. They've already broken them. And so that sets you up for some shame and for, some beating yourself up. But, what if you were to break it down even more and say, okay, what if tomorrow I just put my tennis shoes on? That's my goal for the month of January. Put my tennis shoes on and maybe walk to the mailbox instead of saying this year I'm going to lose a lot of weight and I'm going to exercise. I teach people also how to break things down into so that you're always being nice to yourself. You're always uh, loving yourself. You're always uh, achieving, achieving, so that you're always, so that you don't have to beat yourself up.
Miss Jackie, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals, as well as a certified life or spiritual and relationship coach?
Well, my long term goal in writing this was I really want to reach as many people as possible with this self love message. And I think the next thing, I have two goals in the future after this. One is to write something for children and teenagers, the same kind of message. Teach them how to change their inner thinking, their inner bully. And so that's very important to me because a lot of times our core beliefs come to us when we're children. And if children could learn to say, no, that's not mine, that's yours, I'm okay, then, how different their life would be. So that's the first long term goal. And the second is to create a safe space, retreats for people to go and actually confront their inner bully, to spend a week doing this work, digging deeper. Where did it come from? What are the core beliefs? What are new beliefs that you can do? What are the steps that you can take? And really going through the book step by step. And also, going through, as a spiritual coach, helping people find their spiritual center, because that's really important. A lot of the work I do with my clients is that I help guide them back to their intuition, to their inner voice, because a lot of people don't even know how to go there. And like I said, that's how you make change. You make change with the loving and positive voice. And that starts with your inner soul, your intuition, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it. It starts with a higher self. And so I help guide people to that higher self. So that's really my mission in the future, is to create a space where people can do that.
Interesting goals and looking forward for more success and good luck, Miss Jackie. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, read my book and do the work. People think it's easy. And I did. I was one of those people who thought that people who had good lives were just lucky and they were better than me. But what I learned is that people who have good lives work at having good lives. And when I realized it was time for me to do the work, then my life started to change. It takes work to get up and go to exercise and, treat my body well. It takes work to sit and write in my journal instead of watching TV. It takes work, but you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. And I have a saying that, self love, self, actually, I should know it right. It's self love is my superpower. Um, and remember that self love is your superpower. That once you have self love, you've got a friend on your side. You've got an ally. So don't stop dreaming, and don't if you fail, get up and try again. Just change those goals, reduce them, but always set yourself up for success.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Jackie. And can you please recommend a book of books that influenced your journey?
Oh, there's so many books. I love the book. It's an old book, but it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffries. And it talks about that, yeah, we all have fear, but that's okay. And I think a lot of what holds us back is fear. So once we learn that fear is okay, we just need to keep moving forward. I think that's a really uh, important book to read. The other one is also an old one called Voice Dialogue, and it teaches you how to dialogue with those parts of yourself that are holding you back. I do that in my coaching practice. I help people talk to those parts of themselves, the one that wants to succeed and the one that's holding them back from succeeding because it's afraid of failure. So those are two really, really good books that I would recommend.
The recommended book, Miss Jackie. And many people assume the negative self talk is just the truth or a form of motivation. How do you help a reader first recognize that this chatter is not helpful coach, but an actual antagonist to their well being?
Well, it's funny, when I decided to call my book A Journey from Abusive Brain Shatter, people went, "Oh, abusive brain shatter. I don't like that name." And I said, "You're not supposed to like that name. That's the whole point. Once you recognize the way you talk to yourself, that you bully yourself, you belittle yourself, you gaslight yourself, those are all forms of emotional abuse. And so your brain chatter is abusive. And once you realize that, and you also accept the fact that you're holding yourself back, a lot of times people don't know they have it, but if you're holding yourself back in a job, or if you're holding yourself back from a relationship, or if you're holding yourself back from going for your dream, if you are feeling bad about yourself, if you have an addiction is a lot of time trying to quiet that voice in yourself. If you have behaviors that are not that you don't want helping you, chances are you have abusive brain chatter. And so it's really important to, the first step in anything is to be aware and accept. And and I say with a lot of neutrality. People say abusive brain chatter, yuck, but be neutral. If you have a neutrality about yourself and you're honest, that's half the battle. If you say, oh, like I talk about thinking of yourself like Jane Goodall, it thinks about her primates. Oh, Jackie just said something really nasty about herself. Huh, how interesting. you know and so I think it's really important to be in acceptance and awareness, and that's the way to get yourself started.
Thank you for that empowering answer, Miss Jackie. So, what is the single most important message or feeling you hope a reader carries with them after finishing the last page of your book?
Oh boy. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people. It just came out like a month and a half ago, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback that people saw themselves in my book, and they saw themselves in my journey, and it made them feel empowered to um, face some of their own challenges. And that's what I want people to finish it and go, wow, that's how she did it. I can do this. And I really like her message of self-love. And I really understand how important self-love is. And it's no longer okay to say those things about myself. I say that to myself sometimes, as I said, if it'll creep up on me, I'll say to myself, hmm, Jackie, it's no longer okay to say that way, to talk that way, especially if I'm looking in the mirror or, something as I'm aging. I look in the mirror and no, it's no longer okay to say negative things to Jackie. I come almost say it in the third person. So that's what I would say to people. Talk about yourself in the third person. No, that's not okay to say about Sharon or Judy or, whatever. It's just no, we don't do that anymore.
Third person indeed. So, Miss Jackie, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well. And Comedy 101 in third season, and Food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101, fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, and My Baby Podcast, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Jackie, if you could go back and give one piece of advice to your former self at the
Ooh,
height of the silent bully's power, what would it be?
uh, hmm. It would be, I would say you don't have time. You don't have time to live the way you lived. And loving yourself is much easier than hating yourself. It takes a little bit of work, but in the end, it's so much easier.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Jackie. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, my book is The Silent Bully: A Journey from Abusive Brain Chatter to Self-Love, and you can find it wherever books are sold. And if you'd like to learn about what I'm doing, you can go to my website, which is healingabc.com. That's healingabc.com. And, I welcome you to email me and with your questions and let me know what you think of the book.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Jacquie Elliott because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering book like this to rise. So, Miss Jacquie, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Monica, people, see you soon.